Well, the issue of gun regulation is emerging as a hot topic in the presidential campaign trail. On Monday, Democratic presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton vowed to curb gun violence.
It's the leading cause of death for young African-American men, the second leading cause for young Hispanic men, the fourth leading cause for young white men. This epidemic of gun violence knows no boundaries, knows no limits of any kind. And when this happens, people are quick to say that they offer their thoughts and prayers. That's not enough. How many people have to die before we actually act, before we come together as a nation? I mean, ideally, what I would love to see is gun owners, responsible gun owners, hunters, form a different organization and take back the Second Amendment from these extremists.
Meanwhile, Republican presidential candidates have avoided any discussion of gun control in the wake of last week's massacre at Umpqua Community College. Donald Trump told NBC's Meet the Press that mass shooters are, quote, geniuses in a certain way. They're going to be able to break the system. Meanwhile, John Kasich told the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, quote, I don't think gun control would solve this problem. The deeper issue is alienation. The deeper issue is loneliness. And Ben Carson implied that the Oregon shooting victims didn't do enough to save themselves and suggested he would have been more aggressive in confronting the attacker. And Jeb Bush seemed to shrug off last week's mass shooting, saying on Friday afternoon, quote, stuff happens.
We're in a difficult time in our country, and I don't think more government is necessarily the answer to this. I think we need to reconnect ourselves with everybody else. It's very sad to see, but I resist the notion. And I had this challenge as governor because look, stuff happens. There's always a crisis, and the impulse is always to do something, and it's not necessarily the right thing to do.
And fellow Republican presidential contender Donald Trump also argued against gun control in the wake of the Oregon shooting, saying the shooting highlights the need to address mental illness issues. And again, this was Ben Carson in his own words on Fox.
Not only would I probably not cooperate with him, I would not just stand there and let him shoot me. I would say, hey, guys, everybody attack him. He may shoot me, but he can't get us all.
Take action.
Yeah.
Still with us from Collinsville, Virginia, is Andy Parker, whose daughter, the journalist Alison Parker, was shot dead on the air in August, along with her cameraman, Adam Ward. Your response to what Ben Carson said, to what Donald Trump has said, to what Hillary Clinton has said, and what you understand Bernie Sanders thinks?
Well, let's start with Ben Carson. That's so easy for him to say that. I guarantee you he would be running like the coward that he is. I mean, to make a comment like that, I would do this and I would do that. It's an affront and it is an insult. The other Republican candidates, I'll move. The second one is Jeb Bush, who shrugged it off, as you said, and said stuff happens. I mean, really, this is the whole Republican ticket. Each one of these candidates, their reaction is, well, let's do nothing, which is, of course, Einstein's definition of insanity, and which is what we have now. This certainly mental health is the issue here. But there's got to be a way, and there is a way to wrap these things together. I mean, we can relax some of the HIPAA laws, some of the FERPA laws, so that mental health professionals can talk to law enforcement and say, look, this guy's a ticking time bomb. Employers that can say, look, don't hire this guy because he was escorted out the door by police, which is the case with Allison's shooter. So there are issues there that it's like cancer. You don't treat cancer with one therapy, but the easiest, you go the path of least resistance first, and that is universal background checks, closing the gun loopholes, and then you address these other mental health issues, and and employment issues, but to sit there and say, oh, you know, to suggest that we do anything, nothing's going to work, that just doesn't fly anymore. I'm so glad that Secretary Clinton stood up and has taken the lead on this. I just hope that she doesn't backtrack. Bernie Sanders has had a very dubious record in terms of his votes on gun control, so I'm not sure where he stands now, but I know Ms. Clinton is the one that is at least standing up and making herself a clear, she's made a clear choice for voters in the upcoming election between her and the other Republicans who they deny this thing. And they're, again, guess what? They're getting money from the NRA. They have blood on their hands.
Sanders cited several measures he can support, including a strengthened system of instant background checks, closure of the gun show loophole, a ban on semi-automatic assault weapons, quote, designed strictly for killing human beings, and far greater investments in mental health. Apparently, he says he will be releasing a more comprehensive package that could join people across different opinions. Andy Parker.
Well, I look forward to seeing that from him, because again, he protected a lot of the gun manufacturers with his votes several years ago that were very, very dubious. So I'm glad to hear that he's perhaps coming around on this.
And your sense, Andy Parker, of Martin O'Malley also, who used to be in your neighboring state of Maryland, his positions, he's called for stricter background checks and tougher laws as well. Your sense of his track record?
You know, I honestly don't know enough about Governor O'Malley to comment on that, but I think generally speaking, this is, while the issue is it shouldn't be a partisan issue. The reality is that 90% of Republicans don't support any kind of gun legislation, and just the reverse, 90% of the Democrats do. I know Peter King, John McCain, you know, they support common sense gun legislation. And let me also make something clear that this is an argument that the gun lobby whenever you try and advance or suggest any kind of reasonable common sense legislation, their immediate knee-jerk reaction is they're coming to take away our guns. It's an assault on the Second Amendment. You know, the Second Amendment, you know, Chief Justice Warren Burger suggested, 30 years ago that, and I think most people realize that the intent was not to arm every man, woman, and child. It was for militias. It was to keep. It was, that was back when they were using muskets, and they were used to make sure that if the British invaded again, that there were militias there to help defend the country. That was its intent. Mm. And that's what these guys, every time you say it suggests meaningful solutions to end gun violence. Oh, you're coming to take away our guns. This is an assault on the Second Amendment, and that's it's a false narrative.